Clemson and South Carolina. The Gamecocks have lost 3 straight in the series, but they're hoping their fortunes will change with Steve Spurrier as their head coach. Tonight, he meets Tommy Bowden for the first time.
We're going to have a friendly one this year. They're going to be able to fight. It's going to be fun.
I never thought I'd be standing here. Across from you.
Welcome to Williams-Brice Stadium for the 103rd meeting between the Clemson Tigers and the South Carolina Gamecocks. Both teams are bowl eligible and looking forward to a return to the postseason after forfeiting bowl invitations last year following an all-out brawl during the game at Clemson. It all started in pregame as South Carolina waited for the Tigers to come down the hill. It boiled over in the fourth quarter. A brawl as Lou Holtz couldn't stop the fight, announcing his retirement earlier in the week, and 12 players were suspended, 6 for each team, and this brawl was less than 24 hours after the Pistons-Pacer brawl. Will bad blood spill over again tonight? Hi, everybody. Dave Pash, along with Rod Gilmore, Trevor Maddich, and Duke Castiglione, who will join us shortly. Well, Clemson has dominated this series of late, winning 3 straight and 7 of the last 8, and also 7 of the last 8 here in Columbia, including a 63-17 thrashing in 2003. But they got a new sheriff in town, as Tommy Bowden said, and that would be Steve Spurrier, Trevor. But Spurrier has downplayed this rivalry all week.
Yeah, he has. As coach of the Florida Gators, Spurrier used to love to inflame his rivals, but he's aware of the implications of the brawl. So when a fan told him earlier that the reason that Clemson dominated this game recently was that the Gamecocks didn't hate them enough, Spurrier said no, but he did pull out a zinger for an old rival. He said if hate like that worked, Georgia would have beat Florida every year. So tonight, we'll see the ball coach not as instigator, but as ball coach.
On the other side, Rod, Charlie Whitehurst, the Clemson quarterback, is a veteran of this rivalry. In fact, he's trying to become the first starting quarterback ever at Clemson to go 4-0 against rival South Carolina.
Yeah, he's gone 3-0, and South Carolina fans are tired of him. They've had enough of him because he's played well in those games. And one of the big problems for him this season is he has a bad shoulder. He injured his shoulder about a month ago. That throwing arm is a problem. A lot of pain. He's played through it. I watched him warm up tonight. He's in better shape, a little pain. He may take a shot to deal with it, but he will play tonight.
And he's had a much better senior season after a miserable junior year. Well, in anticipation for the start of this great game, one of the best atmospheres in all of college football, as the theme song to the movie 2001: A Space Odyssey plays as the Gamecocks get set to take the field.
ESPN2's College Football Primetime, brought to you by Forterra. Soft on the inside, tough on the outside.
And welcome back to Columbia as we get ready for South Carolina and Clemson. Now, after the brawl last year, the two schools agreed to meet at midfield and shake hands. And Rod and Trevor, that's something you don't see in college football, especially at the beginning of games and in a heated rivalry like this. What are your guys' thoughts? Does it take away from your intensity as a player when you have to go shake hands with the opponent before the game?
I don't think so. I think from a PR standpoint, this is important because of the brawl. But from a player standpoint, if you don't have an absolute white rage just barely under control for your opponent before the game, you don't have the right mindset. But under control is the key here. And so I think part of the reason to go out and shake hands is to show the country that these players aren't the players of last year.
Time now to bring in the fourth member of our crew to talk more about what's going to take place here momentarily. Duke Castiglione. Duke.
Fellas, the story behind the handshake is a real interesting one. Former Clemson quarterback Mike O'Kane, who, by the way, was the offensive coordinator in this game last year for Clemson when the fight broke out, he has a great relationship with both schools. What he did about 6 weeks ago was take the two athletic directors. He got them together at a Waffle House, and he hashed this whole thing out. Now, what do the players think about it? Well, I talked to Clemson cornerback Ty Hill. He said, hey, listen, you got to remember, we know a lot of guys on the other team. A lot of us are from South Carolina. We play high school ball against each other, pee-wee ball with the kids, so it's a very good thing. That's the story from down here. Send it back to you guys.
All right, Duke, and South Carolina has lost the toss. Clemson defers, so South Carolina will receive Tommy Bowden in his 7th year. Trying to get back to a bowl game. As we mentioned in the open, both Clemson and South Carolina had to forfeit those bowl invitations, but Steve Spurrier was not the head coach then. And done a terrific job in his first year. Many people's coach of the year in college football.
Well, as Spurrier told us yesterday, he didn't expect to win 7 games this year. He was looking at hopefully getting a 6-win season, and here he is with the possibility of picking up number 8.
Jad Dean to boot it away for Clemson. Jonathan Joseph and Noah Whiteside back to receive the opening kick. It'll be Whiteside at the 10, and a little trickery. The pitch to Carlos Thomas, and he's going to get taken down shy of the 15-yard line. Clemson not fooled on the trickery by South Carolina on the opening kick. Blake Mitchell, 3rd in the SEC in touchdown passes with 15 on the year. And most importantly, he's not thrown an interception in the last 2 games, and that includes last week in a win over Florida, their first ever win against Florida.
It's really come on as a quarterback. You know, he didn't play much last year, got his chance to get away from the options, become a drop-back quarterback. He's got to make good decisions for this team tonight, though.
So South Carolina will start first down at its 14-yard line. And a pass play. And eluding the sack and getting rid of it is Mitchell, and it's complete for no gain out to the 15 to Mike Davis. Gaines Adams putting pressure on Mitchell that time. Well, we mentioned Mike Davis. He's coming off the best back-to-back games of the season. Dacus Turman along with Chris Clark, Carson Askins, and Sidney Rice, a terrific young player. Offensive line, Levy, St. Pro, White, Goddard, and Meredith. Starting lineups brought to you by Bud Light. South Carolina 2nd and 9 at the 15-yard line. Davis, a true freshman from Columbia. 170 yards the last 2 weeks. Pass downfield into the air and almost picked off. McKinley couldn't hang on to it at the 30-yard line. Jamal Fudge had coverage on the play. It'll be 3rd down and long. Let's take a look at the Clemson defensive line. Bennett and Adams are the defensive ends. Corey Groover and Trey Tate are the tackles. Anthony Waters, the leading tackler on the squad, along with Billy and Watkins. In the secondary, Ty Hill, a likely 1st or 2nd round pick in next year's NFL draft, along with Coleman Fudge and redshirt freshman Michael Hamlin, the strong safety. South Carolina going to go 5 wide here on 3rd down and 9. Play clock down to 1. Mitchell just gets it off. Clark on the catch. And now we have a whistle, and I think that we've got to delay a game, dead ball foul.
Prior to the snap, a delay of game, offense number 12. It's a 5-yard penalty.
Well, Steve Spurrier doesn't want that to happen, especially this early in the game. That's one thing that Blake Mitchell is working on, is his ability to audible. He doesn't do it much because he's not comfortable with it, and that may have been a case where he tried to audible but took too long.
There is Sidney Rice. Had 5 catches a week ago. Did not have a touchdown that ended a school record streak of 8 straight games with a TD catch. Again, 5 receivers. And Mitchell has time, but everybody's covered. And Mitchell tripped up at the 12-yard line. Gains Adams again on the play. And South Carolina goes backwards on its first series, losing 3 yards, and will have to punt the football.
Well, interesting that South Carolina came out throwing the football. No attempts to run the ball at all. You know, they did have some success against Florida last week running the football, but this opening series, 5-step drop, throw the ball.
And on that 3rd down play, only 3 men rush. 8 went back in coverage. They wanted to take no chance that Sidney Rice could catch and run.
Josh Brown punting out of his end zone. Chancey Stuckey is back to receive the kick. The running rugby-style punt, and takes the proper hop for that kind of a kick. And Stuckey into South Carolina territory to the 48-yard line. So terrific starting field position for Clemson and quarterback Charlie Whitehurst. He is 3-0 against South Carolina, has 6 wins against ranked teams. The Gamecocks are ranked 19th this week. Whitehurst trying to get number 7 over a ranked foe, which would be good for number 1 in school history.
Well, we watched him warm up half an hour, 45 minutes before the game. He did have a little bit of pain during warm-ups. Tommy Bowden told me that he would probably consider taking a shot. His decision, not Tommy's. Something to reduce the pain in that right shoulder.
True freshman James Davis on the carry, wrapped up from behind and taken down. Horace Lambert, the right defensive end, with a tackle on James. Reggie Merriweather, 3 touchdowns against South Carolina a year ago. Harrell, Baham, Stuckey, and Williamson is the tight end. Chip Myrick is the lone senior at right guard. Richardson, Fry, and Dukes on the offensive line. Starting lineup once again brought to you by Bud Light. That was a 3-yard gain for James, so a 2nd and 7. It's James again. Spins off of 1 man to the 42-yard line. About 4 yards on the play there. Take a look at the South Carolina defensive line. Jordan Lindsay, Chris Tucker, Stanley Doty, and Horace Lambert. Tucker had a big play against Florida last week, an interception. Hurley, Laurie, and Davis are the linebackers for South Carolina. Coach Simpson, the best player on the South Carolina defense, along with Bennett, Tyler, and Joseph. Simpson, a sophomore from Rock Hill, South Carolina, the only preseason All-SEC selection for the Gamecocks. Play clock at 5 on 3rd and 4, running play. 1st down, and Davis all the way to the 32-yard line before Coach Simpson makes the tackle. Davis having a terrific true freshman year. He's got 7 touchdowns already.
But one of the things that South Carolina is hoping to do is to get Simpson involved. He's their best defensive player. But when he makes a tackle that far down the field, that's not helping South Carolina. He was unblocked. They had him deep in coverage that time, not in a position for the run. You'll see them creep him up closer to the line of scrimmage as the game goes on.
11 yards on that carry. Now 3 tight ends here for South Carolina. For Clemson, rather, on 1st down of the 32. It's been all James Davis so far. Hurley on the tackle at the 28. Gain of about 3 or 4 there for Davis. Ricardo Hurley back in the starting lineup. He was benched earlier in the season, started every game a year ago after being a parade All-American in high school.
Let's go back to Whitehurst for a minute. You know, we talked about the shoulder and the problems. Now, Clemson fans know that he's had that problem for about a month. He's taken a shot in 2 of the 4 games since then. And 2 games he didn't, he had a little trouble. So it wasn't clear if he was going to take a shot tonight. He wanted to try it in warm-ups. As you see, his backup Proctor, who has played, started a game earlier this year.
That was against Duke. That ended a streak of 37 straight starts for Whitehurst, who's going deep. And we see his arm strength, but it's an errant pass, and it's picked off. Fred Bennett with his 3rd interception of the season, and South Carolina takes over.
And Dave, Trevor, that's why we're talking about the warm-ups. Now, he came out in warm-ups, and he was throwing the ball without having had a shot for the pain in the shoulder. When you go take a shot in your shoulder, now you come back and you have your first pass during the game without the touch. And the touch didn't work here.
Junior Fred Bennett from Manning, South Carolina, with the interception for the Gamecocks. That was the first pass play for Clemson after 4 successful runs. The Tigers were moving the ball before Whitehurst threw the interception.
Rod, when you've got a sore arm, sore shoulder, you've got to set your feet, use proper technique when you throw.
Second offensive series for South Carolina. This one starts at the 8. Mike Davis off the right side. And a pretty good run by Davis out to the 15-yard line, about 7 yards on the play.
On that interception, take a look at Whitehurst's feet. He's under a little bit of pressure, so he's going to be on the move and off his back foot in the air when he releases the ball. And that's why it sails. And that extra time in the air is what allows Bennett time to converge.
That's the 8th interception thrown this season by Whitehurst after 17 picks a year ago and only 7 touchdowns. Back to the ground on 2nd and 3. And powering past the marker is Davis for the first down. Let's get more on the shoulder of Charlie Whitehurst and what happened in the pregame with Duke.
He was about 5 feet away from Whitehurst as he warmed up in pregame. It took him a good 10 minutes to get loose. And he told me after 10 minutes, usually things start to feel better. But if you can imagine a pitcher that's afraid to follow through, he was leaving a lot of balls high in warm-ups, almost like it was painful to follow through.
Yeah, Duke, you know, watching him pregame, there was some pain showing on his face that he was throwing balls in warm-ups.
Here's Mitchell to the air. To the 33-yard line. Kenny McKinley, a guy that Steve Spurrier said had to step up this week. It's a gain of about 14 yards and a first down.
Well, he's a guy that has to step up because so much attention is paid to Sidney Rice. And Spurrier wants to get someone else to help out. And McKinley is that guy. He's got great hands, good speed, and look at him sit down between 3 guys and get a couple of yards after the catch. He's got to help out Rice tonight.
19 catches in his last 6+ games. From the 33, Mitchell finds Sidney Rice, his favorite target, and Rice to the 43. About 8 or 9 on the play. Hamlin and Hill team up to make the tackle as Rice gets his 52nd catch of the year. A redshirt freshman from Gaffney who came out of nowhere this year to star for the Gamecocks.
I like this call by Steve Spurrier. Here we are, almost 6 minutes gone in the first quarter, and he's got to get Rice involved in the game. And by calling a play like that, it's about a 99% completion rate. He knew that Rice would get involved, and the defense needs to see that.
Those are the numbers prior to that catch by Rice, and on second down, shooting into the backfield is Rashad Jackson for Clemson, taking down Davis for a loss of a couple on the play. So it'll bring up a 3rd down at about 4. South Carolina's won 5 straight, and they've all been conference games. First time that's happened since they joined the league back in 1992. Mitchell trying to calm the crowd of 80,000 plus. Mitchell, Rice right open in the middle of the field to the 38-yard line. Fudge on the tackle downfield.
Well, this was spectacular blocking by the offensive line. Clemson ran a line stunt. They correctly figured that they would throw on this down and distance, and yet the offensive line picked everybody up. Take a look at what happens over here, and look at the line pick everybody up and give Mitchell time to throw into the window of the defense.
First down from the 38. Back to the ground. Big hole for Mike Davis to the 31. 7 on the play. Tremaine Billy on the tackle for Clemson.
Well, last week Florida expected South Carolina to throw the ball. They had a lot of diverse coverages planned. So Carolina came out and ran, and that's one of the ways that they beat Florida last week. We saw Spurrier open up with consecutive passes, and now all of a sudden he's saying, look, if Clemson expects us to pass now, we'll run it like we did last week.
How about the glasses?
And no visor.
Yeah.
Well,
Glasses.
it is nighttime, though. South Carolina scored in all 7 of its wins first. And Mitchell lost the ball. South Carolina got on it. Clemson picked it up first, and it was recovered by Gaines Adams at the 36-yard line. It was forced out by Adams, and Clemson recovers and takes over. So one turnover each.
Well, no hesitation on the call here. Arm going forward. If the arm is not going forward, then it's a fumble. Watch the right arm. Is he moving forward? Ah, that might be reviewable. Looks like the ball slipped out, though.
So Clemson takes over at its 36-yard line. And back to what was working on the first drive, the running game and James Davis. We've yet to see Merriweather, as Davis is to the 39. Forward progress will give him 3 yards on the play.
Well, Clemson ran that play quickly. No chance for the officials upstairs to review that play. I think they were pretty confident that the ball slipped out of Mitchell's hand before his arm started forward. Watch the ball. Does it come out? Looks like, yes, that ball comes out before the arm starts any action forward.
That's a fumble.
Yeah, Adams has been in the backfield now 3 times. Got to find a way to block him if you're South Carolina. 2nd and 7 from the Clemson 39. Little flanker screen, and Stuckey is twirled down to the 39-yard line by Tremaine Tyler. Florida State couldn't stop Stuckey last week when he had 2 touchdowns.
Well, we're seeing the style now of the new offensive coordinator, Rob Spence, who came over from Toledo. And he has helped Charlie Whitehurst tremendously this year because he calls a lot of short passes for catch and run. It's a very high percentage passing game. In each of the last 3 years at Toledo, his quarterbacks averaged over 70% completion percentage.
That's Stuckey in motion. South Carolina rushes 3. Whitehurst has time and goes short. It's juggled by Kelly, and as he pulls it in, Lance Laurie makes the stop about 1.5 yards shy of the first down. So Clemson goes 3 and out and will have to punt the ball.
Well, this is what I mean by the short passes. Okay, they didn't get the first down, but last year Whitehurst pressed a bit. He felt that he needed to make big plays, and when you're as talented as he is, then you think you can make those big plays, but that leads to big interceptions as well. It's okay to punt, especially this early in a game. I like the patience that Whitehurst showed by not forcing it.
McKinley is back to receive the kick from Cole Chasen. Angled toward the far sideline. And McKinley will get about 1 yard or 2 on the return. 35-yard punt, minimal return. C.J. Gaddis on the special team stop. South Carolina's offense back on the field when we come back.
ESPN2's College Football Primetime. Brought to you by Volkswagen. On the road of life, there are passengers and there are drivers. And Dr. Pepper and your local Dr. Pepper bottler. Dr. Pepper, one taste and you get it.
Third offensive series coming up for South Carolina. Each drive has started inside its 15-yard line. Even Steve Spurrier's offense isn't good enough to go down the field and score when you're starting inside your 20 all the time. And their offense hasn't been very good this year. 105th in the country, 112th in rushing. But they've been dominant when they get in the red zone. Not much running room there for Davis as Charles Bennett makes the play. Both Bennett and Adams stepping up big here early for Clemson at defensive end.
This is a different kind of rivalry for Steve Spurrier. Most people associate him with Florida State's rivalry with Florida.
Clemson didn't even know they were running the play. Half of the Clemson defense was turned toward the Clemson sideline, and Steve Spurrier said, "Go, run the play." Ty Hill had to make the tackle downfield, and South Carolina on 2nd and 11 picks up the first down.
Yeah, he caught him napping and just told his guys to hurry up. And they're going with a no-huddle offense right now.
Toss to Davis. Cuts it back to the inside. Finally tripped up at the 41. 17 yards for Mike Davis on the play. Michael Hamlin kept Davis from getting an additional 10 or 15 yards.
Going to the no-huddle offense changes the tempo of the game, and it also limits what Clemson can do defensively. They can't change personnel on the field.
And they're also having trouble getting lined up. Spurrier will have a lot of different formations and personnel groups, and the defense will see them break the huddle, have to find the formation, and if that ball is snapped before they can even get lined up, it's a big advantage.
And now he's got him sitting out there waiting for him. They don't know if he's going to go hurry up or not.
And that helps the quarterback get a pre-snap read.
5 first downs already for South Carolina. Now Blake Mitchell has to call timeout. First timeout taken by South Carolina, 2 remaining. And a fast-moving first quarter. Not a lot of offense so far. No score late in the first. Sunday night, Trent Green and the Kansas City Chiefs look to keep pace in the tough AFC West as they take on David Carr and the Houston Texans. Coverage begins at 7:30 Eastern with NFL Primetime presented by Miller Lite. Well, South Carolina, a team that has struggled to run the football this year. 112th in the country and 12th in the SEC. Already 43 yards on the ground so far in this game. Pass play here as that ball might have been tipped, and then it's caught by McKinley, and then he gets stuck at the 43-yard line by Tremaine Billy. Minimal gain on that play. It's the 103rd meeting between these two rivals, Clemson and South Carolina. Clemson has won 62 of these meetings, more wins against South Carolina for the Tigers than any other school, and they've won 7 of the last 8, including a 63-17 thrashing 2 years ago here in Columbia. Tommy Bowden is 5-1 against USC. Mitchell finds his tight end Askins, and he gets hit by his own man McKinley at the 50-yard line. And Jamal Fudge is there for Clemson to bring him down. 8 yards on the play. It'll be 3rd down.
And they're going to go on the ball, hurry up offense again, once again changing the tempo of the game.
You guys like this move here?
It's working.
And Clemson has too many players on the field. And they got the play off. That should be a penalty flag for 12 men on the field. The running play was very close to the first down, but again there is a flag down. Or they're going to say that Clemson was able to get a timeout call before South Carolina snapped the ball. That was awfully close.
Steve Spurrier just has the Clemson coaches really kind of reeling right now. And they're trying to figure out who to get on the field. They don't know when he's going to go hurry up offense and when they're going to huddle. Right now, they're playing at Spurrier's pace. He's dictating what's happening here.
That's one of the great things that he does. He's got such an intuitive feel of the flow of a game and how to get that flow working in his favor and how to get the other team out of rhythm, and that's what he's done in the first quarter.
You look at this team, 7 wins on the year. He told us the other day when we spoke to him that this is one of the most overachieving teams he's ever had. How do you think Spurrier has changed as you go back to his days at Florida to where he is now in terms of his offensive philosophy? And what has worked in terms of the changes that he's made?
Well, I think he's a more patient coach. I think he's got a young offensive team. He's not forcing things that he can't get them to do right now. Take, for example, Blake Mitchell, the quarterback. He's not good at handling a number of audibles, so he's not forcing it, and he's not ranting at him about that.
I think Spurrier is the national coach of the year right now. He has done more against better competition with fewer tools than any other coach in the nation.
Wow, more so than Joe Paterno and Pete Carroll?
I think both of those guys would be up there, but those guys have a lot more talent top to bottom.
Here's a running play on 3rd down and short as the quarterback Blake Mitchell just takes off behind the right guard Nashawn Goddard and picks up the 1st down.
I think Spurrier has done a great job this year, but I don't think it compares to the job that Joe Paterno has done at Penn State, or the pressure that Pete Carroll's had at USC chasing a 3rd title, or even the pressure that Chris Selfo's had at Tulane holding that program together after Hurricane Katrina.
Yeah, I think Selfo deserves a special category this year.
How about Tommy Tuberville and the job he's done at Auburn? They're going to play in the SEC title game after losing 3 first-round draft picks. Here's Mitchell going deep. Laying out for it and making the catch is Rice at the 7-yard line.
Boy, he's got hands. That thing looked like it was overthrown from the start. And it also looked like a ball that might be knocked down by the defender. But watch him lay out. This ball, a lot of air, gives him a chance to go get it. Clemson's in good shape, can't make the play. That's Gaddis out there who can't get to the ball, but watch Rice. Looks like Jerry.
And Spurrier loves to get vertical routes up the seam on safeties. Gaddis, a safety, trying to cover their best receiver, Rice.
Rice already with a school record 12 touchdowns. Davis on the carry. Corey Groover grabs him at the point of attack and throws him down. 1 yard on the play there for Davis.
So this drive has been a Spurrier-induced drive because he's forced the Clemson defenders to think. And when you play defense, you don't want to think. You don't want to have to worry about where you line up. You don't want to have to worry about what your adjustment is. You just want to play. These guys have been trying to figure out when to get out of the huddle, what their adjustments are, and what they're doing.
Well, they just lost Mike Davis for the moment. Davis going to the sideline, banged up on the play, holding his stomach. So it's a 2nd down and goal from the 6-yard line. Mitchell to Rice. Can't break a tackle as Clemson swarms. And it's a loss on the play. Ty Hill, the outstanding senior corner from St. George, South Carolina, makes his 3rd tackle on the night.
And Rod, you mentioned the drive and what Spurrier has done. You look at his play calling selection. He started out by throwing the ball. Clemson adjusted to that. Then he ran successfully. Clemson came up. Then he started throwing short passes to the wide receivers as screens and underneath routes. And then finally he pulled the trigger on a deep vertical route up the seam to Rice. He has worked the entire field.
Mitchell has completed his last 7 passes. Here they go 5 wide. 3rd down and goal. And Mitchell calls South Carolina's 2nd timeout. This has not been a smooth first quarter in a lot of ways. Well, South Carolina has been terrific in the red zone. Steve Spurrier told us earlier this week that it's a big reason why they've won 7 games this year. Not only the red zone offense, 22 touchdowns and 31 possessions, which is good for #1 in the SEC, but also the red zone defense has been very good.
Well, it helps when you have a receiver like Sidney Rice because he can make your red zone offense pretty good. He's done this. 9 touchdowns inside the red zone. 9 of his 12 touchdowns coming down there because he's got great hands, great size at 6'4". He can just jump over you and pick up a ball. Was a great high school basketball player.
Yeah, and Rod, that's important because high school basketball players, or basketball players anyway, have a feel for how to box somebody out away from the basket. So it's intuitive for them when a ball is in the air to get their body between a defender and the ball. Doesn't have to think about it. It's a habit because of his basketball.
Rice didn't play in the opener, and it's amazing when you consider his stats. School record for touchdowns, leading the SEC in receiving yards per game, that he's only played in 9 of the 10 South Carolina games.
If you're Clemson, you want to make sure that Ty Hill is opposite him. He's your best corner. He's a guy with NFL caliber ability. You want to have your best on the best.
There's Rice right there.
They've already had 1 delay a game, 2 seconds on the play clock, and Mitchell with the ball to the end zone, incomplete. There was some contact in the end zone between Chris Clark and a Clemson defensive back, but no penalty flag on the play. It was C.J. Gaddis who ran into Chris Clark, but incidental contact and no flag down.
A lot of teams play zone coverage down here in the end zone, and that makes like a picket fence, and the challenge for the offense is to find the opening in the picket fence, and they couldn't that time.
So Josh Brown will try a field goal. He's 6 out of 8 on the year. This will be a 24-yard attempt. South Carolina, when it scores first, is 7-0 this season. And it takes the early lead on Tommy Bowden's Tigers with 16 seconds to go in the opening quarter. Officially a 23-yard field goal. But it was set up by that big pass play to Sidney Rice. If you're Clemson, though, based on South Carolina's success in terms of scoring touchdowns in the red zone, has to be somewhat of a win for you defensively to be able to hold South Carolina to a field goal.
Well, I think they're happy about that, but I think they're a little concerned that they were out of sync on that drive. I mean, they didn't have a clue about what they were doing against the no huddle. And that really threw them off. So I think they want to get that corrected. But you're right. You'll take 3 instead of 7 anytime you can.
And for South Carolina, the best thing that happened in that drive was that long pass to Sidney Rice, because that forces Clemson to account for him deep. And I can see that opening up running lane. So next time they get the ball, watch for a lot of runs.
Mitchell was near perfect on that drive, with the exception of that incompletion in the end zone. Whitehurst has been struggling so far, has an interception, and hasn't been able to get the passing game going yet for Clemson. That was an 11-play, 82-yard drive as South Carolina lines up in that strange formation, ready to kick it away from the 35. Aaron Kelly is back to receive.
That's got to be the weirdest kickoff cover formation I've ever seen.
Kind of looks like the way they have the lights set up here at the stadium, like a big crustacean, as you put it the other day, Trevor. Here's Kelly, banged down to the 29-yard line. Terrell Davis with a special teams tackle for South Carolina.
Now, see, if you look at this from the end zone, from outside the stadium, these lights on both sides kind of hover over. And this stadium, which holds over 80,000, has every one of those fans vertical and close to the field. It looks like it's just hovering over, waiting to pounce.
That's kind of what that formation looked like, didn't it? Hovering over, waiting to pounce.
Well, maybe they call it the crustacean.
First down from the Clemson 29. We have yet to see Merriweather. Here's a play fake to Davis. Whitehurst going deep again for a pick last time and throws another one. Jonathan Joseph on the interception.
Well, that's the second time that Whitehurst has thrown a deep ball, and the second time it's been picked off. And you have to wonder how much of that is the shoulder issue. Got to have more control on the deep ball. He doesn't have it here. Joseph makes a fantastic interception. South Carolina back in business now with the ball.
Charlie Whitehurst with as many completions to South Carolina as he has to his own players. Whitehurst with 2 picks already in this game. And South Carolina takes over, leading 3-0. Had the ball for 10 out of the 15 minutes in that first quarter. And they line up with Kenny McKinley getting the football under center. And he takes off to the 31 for about 2 yards.
Now there are 2 receivers going deep. Man coverage. Look how both of those coverage guys stay over the top. They don't let the receivers get behind. Now the inside one is Joseph, right in the middle of the, or check that, on the top. But you can see he's behind the receiver, and that's where the ball is thrown. So when that corner is over the top, can't throw the ball at him.
Mitchell at quarterback on 2nd down and 8. Little play action. And Mitchell's pass batted down, and it is loose and incomplete. Penalty flag down in the area of offensive holding.
Offense, number 77, 10 yards, replay the down.
Hey guys, you know, one thing about rivalry games, everybody brings their trick plays into it. And the second quarter is usually when you get it. Now, you won't see one from South Carolina down here, I think, backed up. But the question becomes, which team can run their trick play before the other?
And we saw one in the opening kickoff by South Carolina. It didn't work. Will we see another one from Steve Spurrier? And Mike Davis is not in the game. He left in the first quarter with what looked like a stomach or a rib injury, and Dacus Turman has come out to replace him. And Turman trying to catch the screen pass, incomplete. It'll be 3rd and 18. Turman had 2 rushing touchdowns last week against Florida. And with more on Mike Davis and his injury, let's check in with Duke on the sideline.
Fellas, they were working on Davis. It looked like his midsection. He looked like he was in a little bit of pain. and as a precautionary reason, they took him in, what they're calling for observation. X-rays, we don't know, but observation is what they're saying right now.
All right, Duke, and Davis has had a pretty good year, especially the last 2 weeks with 88 yards against Florida and 2 touchdowns and 89 yards against Arkansas the previous week. Here's Bobby Wallace, another true freshman who started earlier in the year, and he is going to get hit out of play at the 34-yard line, about 5 yards shy of a first down. And the first opportunity in this game for maybe a little extracurricular activity, but the South Carolina coaches jump in there to keep their players from getting an extra shot on a defender.
Well, South Carolina is taking it to him right now on the ground. This is the last worst rushing team in the SEC, and yet they're able to move the chains running the ball, and Clemson's not used to that. Now look at everybody run in and out. Of course, that's on the punt, and look at this formation. See, this is confusing Clemson.
Josh Brown to punt it away. Stuckey is back at his 16-yard line. Again, that rugby-style punt, which usually results in good top spin. And this one gets a couple of hops to the 30-yard line. And Clemson will start there. Let's bring back Duke Castiglione.
Phillips, Eric Hyman, South Carolina athletic director. Terry, why was it so important to get this handshake done before the game as opposed to after the game?
Well, certainly after what happened last year, I think it's important to send a message throughout our state, high schools, grade schools, you know, everybody that looks at South Carolina and Clemson, and it transcends the two universities. These are two fine universities. They're going to play hard, but there's a message that we needed to send, and I'm very grateful to have the opportunity to work with Eric and working on issues like this.
Eric, is this something you would like to see continue in this great rivalry? Will we see this next year and maybe the year after?
I don't think there's any question. I think part of college athletics is sportsmanship, and this is something we want to build on and continue to do this in the future because I think it sends the right message to a lot of people.
Fellas, appreciate the time. Thank you very much. Dave, let's go back to you.
All right, Duke, Eric Hyman replacing Mike McGee, who left, along with Lou Holtz. Holtz announced his retirement to his players just days before that final game, and then Steve Spurrier took over just days after. Here's the first carry for Reggie Merriweather. He had a big game last year against South Carolina with 3 touchdowns. Gets about 3 or 4 yards on that carry, his first of the night.
And remember that the night before that brawl last year was the Pistons Indiana Pacers brawl. So these kids woke up and saw it on all the morning news shows the morning before the game, and that kind of activity was in their heads.
And both coaches, Tommy Bowden and Lou Holtz, addressed it at their morning meetings. But South Carolina started it early, waiting for Clemson to run down the hill. Here's Merriweather, grabbed from behind and brought down. Lance Laurie on the tackle, and a gain of about 1.
Well, Dave, I think that's the key point that you made about South Carolina last year, waiting at the bottom of the hill, which started the fracas last year. And I think Steve Spurrier made a point. When a head coach says he's going to retire and the team knows about that, then he kind of loses control over the team from their point on. They know that he can't do anything to it. And that might have happened last year to South Carolina.
Third down and 6. Keep in mind, Whitehurst has already thrown 2 interceptions. And this time he throws a dart. It's complete to Kelly for a first down to the 43-yard line. Well, no one, after watching consecutive brawls like that, has ever seen anything like that, guys, in a 24-hour span. Do you agree with what the athletic directors have decided to do, and that's have an annual pregame handshake to try to diffuse any kind of tension? I don't know if you can do that. I don't know if you can take away that tension.
Well, I think it may work initially, but in the long run, I think people will soon forget about it. And I think players, from a player standpoint, you don't want to shake the hand of the opposing team before a game. That's when you're getting yourself kind of psyched up.
Yeah, I agree. You've got to be furious at your opponent, not have a group hug.
Whitehurst had an open man. It was Steven Jackson, but overthrew him on the far sideline. It'll be 2nd and 10.
But I can't see why they did it, because it was so ugly last year and the ramifications so steep in both teams were drawing from bowl eligibility, that they had to make a statement. And I think it was a good statement to make. Just as a player, you don't like having to make that statement.
Well, I think the bowl penalty got the attention of the players, and I think that they would respond to more than anything. Missing out on the bowl game really hurts players.
Whitehurst on 2nd and 10. And unable to come up with it is Merriweather at the 47, in part because he got drilled. It was Terrell Davis who smacked Merriweather, and he couldn't hang on to it. It'll bring up a 3rd down and 10.
Well, Rod, you mentioned how it had its beginning in pregame. And Clemson runs down the hill after rubbing Howard's Rock into the stadium, and SEC officials didn't realize the potential for problems. ACC officials always keep opposing teams beyond the 25-yard line so they can't intermingle down there. But the SEC officials didn't know that, and that's one of the reasons that happened.
And a timeout called by Clemson. So 1 timeout remaining for each school here in the first half. We'll see what Whitehurst and company can come up with here on 3rd down. Whitehurst needs a big play. He's already thrown 2 picks. Monday night, join Stuart Scott and company as they bring you all the latest news and notes from around the NFL leading up to the kickoff of ABC's Monday Night Football. And Al Michaels and John Madden are at historic Lambeau Field for the Vikings and Packers. Both teams coming off big wins. Packers against Atlanta, and the Vikings with a win last week as well. 3rd down and 10 from the Clemson 44. Charlie Whitehurst has thrown 2 interceptions so far in the game. Whitehurst with time, but everybody's covered. And Whitehurst is going to come up about 1.5 yards shy of the 1st down. What do you do here if you're Tommy Bowden? It's 4th down and about 1.5 yards. You're in South Carolina territory.
Well, I think you go for it, but take a look at what happens. The defense, everybody's up here. It looks like a blitz, and then everybody backs out. And this is to confuse Charlie Whitehurst. Now, all of a sudden, instead of a huge pass rush, 7 guys are back in coverage. Nobody's open. That's why Whitehurst takes off on the ground.
Well, Tommy Bowden disagrees with you, Trevor. He's going to punt the ball.
Oh, I think he had to go for it here.
I think it's the right decision, because if you turn it over here and don't get it, you give Steve Spurrier's offense a short field. And remember, they had a nice drive once before. Why give him a short field when you're down 3 points?
Joseph and McKinley back to receive Chasen's kick. And Joseph signals for the fair catch at the 8-yard line. Let's go ahead and take a look at our KFC game track. Started before the game with Clemson and South Carolina meeting at midfield for a little pregame handshake.
Yeah, this is just the opposite of what happened last year. There were no hugs last year. And then we got into this ball game, and things worked out not too well for Whitehurst. A couple of picks early on.
Yeah, and the ball sailed on him on both picks, and it's hard to say how much of that is his arm sore from pregame, as we saw Tommy Bowden really get into his face, was not happy with something that he did there and that caused that interception.
Well, South Carolina, because of a fair catch signal inside the 10-yard line, forces him to start at the 10. Bobby Wallace, replacing the injured Mike Davis, is out near the 16. He's had 2 good runs so far. C.J. Gaddis on the tackle.
You know, interestingly, we talk about South Carolina's running game and it being so poor. Well, Steve Spurrier doesn't really believe that. He says the problem is that they just aren't on the field enough to run the ball. He thinks that they're not bad running the football.
The time of possession has been a problem for most of the year, but they've had it for most of this game. 8 yards on the play, and on 2nd and 2, it's Wallace again. Finds the hole and into the secondary to the 22 for 6 yards. Antonio Clay made the tackle, but South Carolina has a lot more breathing room after 2 successful rushing plays.
Well, when you talk about having to run the football in the shadow of your own goalpost, and you see the great blocking up front, that allows you to do that. And maybe Spurrier is right. They just haven't been on the field long enough to get continuity in the running game.
And plus, he's got 2 freshman running backs that are really coming on in the second half of the season.
8 first downs already, 5 via the rush. Back to the ground again. More running room for Wallace to the outside. And then he carries defenders with him to the 38-yard line. Jamal Fudge was on his back. That's a gain of about 15 yards. And Dacus Turman had a great block to spring Bobby Wallace.
And Bobby Wallace showed great elusiveness like this in camp. But in games early in the season, he seemed a bit tentative. And now, look, he's not tentative at all. On the draw, he'll get up into the line, and then he'll burst outside. No tentative, makes the decision, and that's part of the progression of a young player that has tracked the success of the offense during the season.
How about that block by Turman?
It was huge, and South Carolina has 101 rushing yards already. They only average 83 per game. And we still have 9 minutes to go in the second quarter. Mitchell with time, and Rice goes down to make the catch. This drive started at the South Carolina 8. It's already to the Clemson 40 in just 4 plays.
Well, what South Carolina is seeing is a lot of two-deep coverage from Clemson. And the way you beat the two-deep coverage is you go ahead and you make sure that you get your guys down the middle of the field. You'll see those safeties fly out of there, and the middle will open up. There it opens up, right there.
On the draw, Wallace. And there are some enormous running lanes for Bobby Wallace. Got 9 more. This time it was Carson Askins, the tight end with the block, that sprung Wallace.
Well, Wallace ought to take a cup of water over to his friend Sidney Rice, because those running lanes are a direct result of the vertical passing game being successful and gaining yards. It keeps the safeties backed away from the line of scrimmage.
And it makes the linebackers honest as well. If the linebackers know you're throwing the ball behind them, they tend to fly out of there.
Wallace averaging 10 yards a carry, 5 rushes, 53 yards. Mitchell has time. Boy, what a running game can do for you. Carson Askins with a first down catch and pushed out a play at the 24-yard line.
We talk about that running game, Dave. Spurrier has the reputation of slinging the ball all over the field in the fun and gun, which is now the cock and fire. But his best teams at Florida were teams that ran the ball best. Fred Taylor standing out as one of the best runners that he had there. And he's using the run now in conjunction with hitting all areas of the field in the passing game. Clemson doesn't have an answer yet.
2-to-1 rushing versus passing plays last week against Florida. Mainly a ground attack today, and that's one of the few negative rushing plays we've seen as Wallace gets taken down by Gaines Adams, who forced a fumble earlier in this game.
A lot of people say that Steve Spurrier has a huge ego. Well, if you have a huge ego and you're known as a passing guru, you don't run the ball like this, like he did last week against Florida, or like he's doing this week. And this is a coach who is adapting his offense to what he has here at South Carolina, and that doesn't signal a huge ego.
Yeah, that's anti-Spurrier, at least what the fans and a lot of the media would say. Here's Mitchell, and the pass through the hands of Dacus Turman incomplete. It'll bring up 3rd down and long. For those of you that are just getting to your televisions today, Georgia did beat Kentucky, so that means South Carolina cannot play in the SEC championship game, but can finish second in its division. And certainly a bowl bid is in the future for South Carolina. The Gamecocks trying to close things out with win number 8, which would be remarkable when you consider what Steve Spurrier told us the other day, that this is the most overachieving team he's ever had, and that goes back to his days at Duke, and he won an ACC title at Duke. Here's 3rd and 12, 5 wide receivers, and Mitchell stepping up, and the pass is broken up. It was intended for a right side. Sergio Gilliam came over the top, and no penalty flag thrown.
Well, you talk about overachieving. He's got 2 real playmakers right now in Sidney Rice, wide receiver, and in safety Coach Simpson. And the rest of the guys are good supporting, but they're overachieving because they're winning games, as we see a great defensive play there.
I don't know.
No, that's a great play.
No, it's interference. He hit him first before the ball got there. It's close. But now a 43-yard field goal try by Josh Brown. 1 for 1 today. Make it 2 for 2. The drive started at the 8-yard line, and the Gamecocks get 3 more points out of it, and they lead by 6 midway through the second. Well, Clemson has been clobbered in every statistical category so far in the game, but only one big play away from taking the lead. Our Sonic scoring drive, 10 plays, 66 yards. And most of those on the ground. Josh Brown with a 43-yard field goal.
Yeah, I don't like that formation. You have to cover more ground when you line up like that.
Unless your kicker does that. As Suckup buries Kelly about 5 yards deep in the end zone. And Clemson will start at the 20-yard line. Let's take another look at this pass play that was broken up by Gilliam.
Yeah, now just watch to the left of your screen. Watch the official who comes in here. Watch what he does. He starts to think about the flag, and he's no. Good play. Good play, and doesn't call it.
So Clemson will take over at its 20-yard line. Whiteside was the intended receiver on that play that was broken up by Gilliam, and we mentioned that Clemson is one big play away from taking the lead. Well, Charlie Whitehurst is a guy that can get it done, but he's really struggled so far in this game. He's thrown 2 interceptions. Merriweather on the ground, bounces off of tacklers. Good hard run for about 3 yards. Well earned for Reggie Merriweather, the junior from North Augusta, South Carolina.
Well, Whitehurst has struggled, and give a little credit to Troy Nix, the defensive coordinator, co-defensive coordinator, because he's called the right coverages, and his guys have played the right technique. Man coverage, they've been back there. And the few times they've played zone, they've stayed in their zones.
Tyrone Nix has been calling the plays the last 3 games for Steve Spurrier on defense. He's the co-defensive coordinator with John Thompson, former head coach at East Carolina. Whitehurst off the play fake. And there's nobody to throw to in the pattern. There were no, and then Whitehurst is drilled out of bounds after a penalty flag. Lance Laurie hit Whitehurst into the Clemson bench out of bounds. And this is the second time where we could have had a flare-up between the two schools, but it was quickly taken care of by the coaches and officials.
That's exactly right, because when you get your quarterback hit on the sidelines late, that's the perfect opportunity for guys to get involved with it. But they all restrained themselves over there this time.
And did you note that every single official sprinted to that spot as soon as they saw that happen? The Clemson quarterback.
After the play was over, have a dead ball, personal foul, number 48, 15 yards added to the end of the run, automatic first down.
That's Lance Laurie, as we mentioned, the senior playing in his final Clemson, South Carolina game.
Now you've got the senior quarterback Whitehurst that gets hit out of bounds deep into the Clemson sideline. Now that's a recipe for disaster based on what happened last year, and yet every single official sprinted to that spot and it was averted.
Well, give credit to the Clemson players. They didn't respond. I mean, when you see your quarterback get plastered like that in front of you, the natural tendency is to react, but Clemson didn't.
And we saw it on the South Carolina sideline earlier this quarter when a running back, Bobby Wallace, came over to the sideline, and there were 3 Clemson defenders in the area of South Carolina players, but nobody made a move. Everybody stood still on the South Carolina bench. Whitehurst looking for the screen to Stuckey. And he's gang tackled at the 48-yard line, about 4 yards in the play.
Well, this is something that Tyrone Nix likes to do. Bring a lot of players up to the line so that they don't know who's coming and who isn't. This time there were 8 defenders right up at the line of scrimmage. Right here, 8 guys. And then all of them but 4 drop out. And so instead of being a jailbreak, it's a short game.
What was that thing you just threw up on the screen there?
I don't know, but if I can do that again, I'll bottle it. That looked pretty cool.
Now we have another timeout. Timeout taken by Clemson. None remaining for the Tigers here in the first half. They're down 6.
ESPN2's College Football Primetime, brought to you by KFC. Everyone's cheering for KFC $4 meals. Get all the quality of a casual dining meal at half the price. They're good.
South Carolina and Clemson in the annual battle for bragging rights in the Palmetto State. It's meeting number 103, 97th consecutive meeting between these two schools. And Clemson with a 2nd and 7 from the 47. And good coverage again downfield by the South Carolina secondary. Whitehurst has to dump it off to Davis. And he is trampled at the 45-yard line, a loss of 2 on the play. Nobody can get open downfield for Clemson to help out Whitehurst.
They dropped 8.
Again, the numbers favoring the guy that you wouldn't think they would favor.
Well, keep in mind that Whitehurst has played great in the last 3 games against South Carolina. He's 3-0 against them, trying to go 4-0.
Had a pretty good bounce back year after that struggle last year when he had 17 interceptions and 7 touchdowns. 21 touchdowns in 2003. Tommy Bowden told us this week that it was the coach's fault. Tommy put too much pressure on him last year. And here Boeheim, the first time we call his name as he gets the first down on a 3rd down and 9. Caught at the 45. Mike West on the tackle for South Carolina.
Well, what Tommy Bowden meant by that was that he didn't have the run established well enough for him, and he called too many passes that put the offensive line in difficult protection situations. And so Charlie Whitehurst felt that he had to press. Now note, this was just a nice, easy pitch and catch. It wasn't a big play that Whitehurst was forced to try to make.
Boeheim's first catch of the night, 25 on the year. Back to the ground to Davis as he darts through a hole, gets about 11 to the 34. Tremaine Tyler on the tackle, but James Davis, who's getting a lot of touches earlier in the game, starting to get back into the flow of the offense here late in the 2nd quarter.
For as much as South Carolina has dominated the first half, they're only up by 1 play because of field goals, not touchdowns. And now Clemson is within 1 play of taking the lead.
And how has South Carolina won its games this year? By scoring touchdowns in the red zone, something it hasn't done today. Here's Stuckey on a little screen, and South Carolina's all over it. Minimal gain of the play. Jermaine Joseph with the tackle for USC. Let's go to the studio and get a college football update with Matt Weiner.
David's a Taco Bell studio update. Georgia Tech and Miami, their postponed games from the hurricane. And Tashard Choice gets it going. Georgia Tech gets the early jump on the Canes. It's 7-0.
How about that? Georgia Tech leading Miami early on.
Well, that postponement actually did help Miami. Kyle Wright was able to let his injured hand heal. He would have had to have played injured against Georgia Tech if it weren't for the postponement.
Well, Clemson almost beat Miami, lost to the Hurricanes in 3 overtimes earlier this year. Whitehurst in trouble and carries a Carolina defender with him to the 32. Chris Tucker was all over Whitehurst. And Whitehurst is not exactly small. He's about 230 pounds, even though Tucker's about 290. And actually positive yardage on the play.
Carolina leads the SEC in sacks with 31 coming into this game. And that time there were 8 defenders up near the line of scrimmage, only 3 deep in coverage, and that's one of the reasons the pocket collapsed.
South Carolina likes to bring pressure on 3rd and long situations. Look for a blitz here.
This is the first sustained drive for Clemson all night. 8th play coming, 3rd trip into Gamecock territory. Nothing to show for it, yes. And here comes the pressure. Whitehurst drilled as he gets rid of it out of bounds. Terrell Davis put pressure on Whitehurst. Kelly was well out of bounds when he made the catch, incomplete. And it's 4th down and 8, and the Tigers are going to try a long field goal.
Well, this is a good area for a fake field goal. You're looking at something that could be, what is about 48 yards, 49 yards. And if you run a fake here and you don't get it, you don't give up that much yardage.
49-yard attempt for Dean, who is 3 field goals shy of tying the school record for most field goals made in a season. Plenty of leg, and it's perfect. The junior from Greenwood, South Carolina, Jad Dean, buries it from 49 yards out. That's his longest made field goal of the year. And Clemson is finally on the board with 2:29 to go in the half.
He could have made that one from 59. I mean, that thing had a lot of leg behind it.
Well, this is how he started the season. He made 6 field goals against Texas A&M, and that was the margin of victory.
That thing winds up in the stands.
Jad has about 50 friends that attend South Carolina. Got a lot of phone calls this week, but that'll shut up some of them, making a 49-yard field goal. That's a career long, in fact.
Well, you know, you talk about this rivalry, and the proximity plays a big part of it. They're not that far away from each other. And then you add to the fact that there's not a pro sports franchise around here. So everybody focuses on these two schools.
Now, Tommy Bowden says that the three main sports in the state of South Carolina are football, spring football, and recruiting.
That's a pretty good line.
So Clemson finally on the board. 6-3 South Carolina. The Gamecocks will get the ball back with only one timeout remaining. Clemson does not have any timeouts. Whiteside on the kick return. And again, South Carolina unable to get to the 20-yard line. Steven Jackson with a special teams tackle for Clemson. Back to the studio we go for another update. And Matt Weiner.
And Jim Dunn and Star Motorcycles halftime report just a couple of minutes away. Joe Pa goes to the BCS.
Hey, it's his 32nd bowl game.
Pretty amazing. Rivalry week continues. We'll tell you about the assorted trinkets and trophies out there for grabs. And we'll get you updated on the Miami Hurricanes, who trail on their home field to Georgia Tech. All coming up at the half.
All right, guys, and now with Penn State going to the BCS out of the Big Ten, does Ohio State have a chance as an at-large after beating Michigan today?
Well, yeah, I think they have a chance. You just have to wait and see how everything else plays out.
Mike Davis is back into the game for South Carolina at tailback. Mitchell to the air looking for Rice, and he couldn't hang on to it. That was a forward pass, so it's incomplete.
As to follow up on that point, Dave, you're looking at a 10-2 Ohio State team. Those two losses were good losses. And you're looking at a Virginia Tech team that had one loss, which was a bad loss, and perhaps an Oregon team that might have one loss to the top team in the country in USC. So you have to wait and see how the mix plays out there.
And maybe UCLA finds itself in the mix, even if it doesn't beat USC but plays well.
Well, Virginia Tech and Notre Dame have the best chance, though, of being those at-large teams.
5 defensive backs here for Clemson on 2nd and 10. And Mitchell with a perfect throw to McKinley. Again, Spurrier told us that McKinley had to step up tonight, and McKinley has. That's a 13-yard gain and a first down.
Getting back to the bowl scenario, both these schools are in the hunt for significant bowl games and even January 2nd bowl games.
South Carolina being considered by the Outback Bowl, the Peach Bowl, the Capital One Bowl. Clemson, the Peach, Gator, Champ Sports, and Meineke Car Care Bowl are possibilities. Flags down. Going to be a dead ball foul. You mentioned McKinley, 3 catches already.
False start, offense. 77, it's a 5-yard penalty. Play the dead.
That's the right tackle, Jamon Meredith, his 2nd penalty so far in the game.
You know, I think if you take a look at this replay, see the jump?
I didn't see it.
No. But I was going to tell you, if South Carolina gets to a January 2nd bowl game, Steve Spurrier is going to get more money. He's got a $50,000 bonus for 8 wins, $50,000 bonus if he plays, $100,000 if he plays on January 1.
He's got enough money, doesn't he? Here's first down and 15, and wide open on the far sideline is Chris Clark out to the 36-yard line, getting a lot of that yardage back that was lost. And Clark may have tweaked a hamstring or his groin on that play. 1 timeout remaining here for the Gamecocks. 2nd and 4 coming up.
2nd and 4, ball's only 36.
South Carolina's got a lot of yards tonight, but they've had to start 6 times inside their own 20. The last drive started at the 8, and they ended up getting a field goal. Nice play in the backfield as Mike Davis is cut down. Nick Watkins, sophomore linebacker from New Orleans, with the tackle. Check in with Duke down on the sideline.
And bonuses in his contract. Originally, when South Carolina started negotiating with him, they were offering him $1.5 million. Spurrier said, "Now that's too much money. I'll take 1.25 and give the other $250,000 to my assistants."
And assistant coaches will love him for that. Mitchell in trouble. Finds Clark, and Clark's got the first down. There is a penalty flag down, and there's also an injured South Carolina player, and it's the quarterback Mitchell, who is slow to get up. That is the third Gamecock starter that has been hobbled so far in this first half. That play's coming back, so wipe out the first down.
Well, it is very important that Mitchell stay in the game.
Holding, number 70 on the offense. 10 yards from the previous spot. We'll replay the down.
Well, you mentioned the fact that Mitchell's got to stay in the game. South Carolina's backup is Antonio Hefner. He started against Auburn at quarterback, but has not played a whole lot of that position. Is playing some receiver this year as well.
Let's take a look at the replay. Mitchell gets hit on this play, and you'll see how he just went down himself. He didn't really get hit so much as he took his own footing down and then hobbled himself.
South Carolina content to go into the locker room with a 3-point lead, letting the clock wind down as Mitchell hobbles back and hands it off to Davis. And that'll be the final play of the first half. A lot of offense for South Carolina in terms of yards, but no touchdowns in that first half for either team. South Carolina outgained Clemson by a 3-1 margin, but only leads by 3 at the half as Mitchell hobbles into the locker room for South Carolina. Jad Dean with that 49-yard field goal for the lone points for Clemson, a career long for Dean. And Clemson is down 3. Steve Spurrier is standing by with Duke.
Coach, your thoughts on the first half here?
Well, we got some yards in the middle of the field, no touchdowns, but our defense is playing super. We're getting a few more penalties than we've been getting, so hopefully that'll ease off.
Did you have a chance to talk to Mitchell? It looked like he got a little banged up in that
I think
2
he
plays.
rolled his ankle a little bit. We'll tape it up. He should be okay.
Thanks, Coach. Good luck in the second half.
All right, Duke, so the old ball coach, not in the type of game that he normally likes. It's a low-scoring affair. 6-3, South Carolina leading, but his team in front as we go to Matt Weiner with the Star Motorcycles halftime report. What 6-3, South Carolina leads Clemson. Let's go ahead and take a look at our game track from a first half that was dominated by South Carolina, at least yardage-wise. Our game track brought to you by KFC.
Yeah, pretty much the biggest offensive play first half. Sidney Rice catching a 40-yard pass, had 93 yards receiving. And on the other side, Trevor, not a lot of offense side of Clemson.
No, there aren't. There were 2 interceptions from Charlie Whitehurst, and they couldn't ever get a rhythm on offense. Credit South Carolina's defense for doing unexpected things at unexpected times.
Well, if you're Clemson, guys, only 84 yards total offense in that first half. You got to feel pretty good about things. You're down only 3 points. South Carolina's on pace for 500 yards total offense. And Steve Spurrier told us, hey, we've won because we've been successful scoring touchdowns in the red zone, but 0 for 2 in this game so far.
Well, I think that's right. I think that Tommy Bowden has to be concerned that his offense has struggled with turnovers. They've had that problem, and he hasn't found a way to solve that defense from Troy Nix in South Carolina. They got to come up with an answer.
They do have to come up with an answer. And offensively, they need to get some bigger plays. They're not able to grind out long drives long enough to get points. And so they've got to get some bigger plays to get bigger chunks of yards.
Well, Tommy Bowden has got his team in a position here to finish strongly and go to a January 1st bowl potentially, but they'd love to beat their rivals for the 8th time in the last 9 tries. And as you see, total offense dominated by South Carolina, time of possession dominated by the Gamecocks, and they won the turnover battle in that first half, but only a 3-point lead.
Well, the telling thing for South Carolina, they've been efficient all year long in the red zone. In the first half, they got down there twice, and they came away with field goals, not touchdowns.
Ryan Suckup, the kickoff for the Gamecocks.
Suckup booting it away from the 35-yard line. And again drives Aaron Kelly about 8 yards deep in the end zone, and Clemson will start at the 20. Let's check in with Duke Castiglione.
Fellas, I had a chance to talk to Coach Bowden as he came back on the field. He said, hey, listen, I told our guys, we're only down 3 and we've taken their best shot, so let's pick it up here in the second half. I asked him about Charlie Whitehurst and maybe the cold weather affecting his arm. He said, not that I know of. Guys, back to you.
Well, Clemson is a school that has played in a lot of close games this year. 4 of their losses, all 4 of their losses, have been by a total of 14 points. 2 have come in overtime, so it's no surprise that as we start the third quarter, they're in a close game again. And a running play. James Davis on first down and squirts past the 24 to the 25. Oris Lambert on the tackle. They had 57 rushing yards in the first half. Davis had 34 of those yards. True freshman from Atlanta, Georgia. 39 yards with 1 carry now in the second half. 3 tight ends here. As you look at the left wrist of Davis, which was injured earlier in the season, he broke it against NC State. Still had 143 yards rushing in that game. Good run here by Davis, backing his way across the marker to the 31. Hurley and Lambert team up to make the tackle, but 2 rushing plays for Clemson and move the sticks.
Well, Dave, you mentioned 3 tight ends. This is another change with new offensive coordinator Rob Spence that Tommy Bowden brought in this offseason. Add some tight ends, add fullbacks, give the option to be able to pound the ball in there even when the defense stacks the box. And if you can't get rhythm on offense, the easiest way to start it is just to mash forward.
Well, they did this on their first drive, and then when they went to the air, Whitehurst threw an interception. Running play again. Davis spins away from 1 man and stumbles down to the line of scrimmage. It was Stanley Doty who fired into the backfield and tripped up James Davis.
I think one of the adjustments you'll see in the passing game is you'll see Clemson try to get a guy in the slot matched up against a safety or a linebacker. They know that South Carolina likes to play man coverage, and they want to get a mismatch somewhere if they can.
Only 2 coaches have beaten Steve Spurrier and Bobby Bowden the same year. Butch Davis when he was at Miami, and Philip Fulmer at Tennessee. Tommy Bowden can become the 3rd if Clemson wins this game, as Whitehurst has that one complete. Out to the 40-yard line to Stuckey. 9 yards on the pickup. It'll be a 3rd down and short.
Now that was an interesting matchup. They went to the slot. They got Stuckey in the slot, but South Carolina switched up. They moved their corner inside. That's Joseph, and they put Simpson, the safety, outside. So it wasn't a mismatch.
And that's only the 3rd catch from Stuckey in this game. In the first half, he had 2 grabs for only 3 yards.
He had 11 catches against Florida State last week, 2 touchdowns. On 3rd down and 1, Davis has the first down, barreling forward to the 42-yard line. Curtis Rice made the stop for South Carolina.
You know, guys, talking to Tommy Bowden before the ball game, and he said, you realize this is my 7th year at Clemson, longest tenure anywhere. I think people have forgotten about the time he was at Tulane and had that undefeated season. Sean King at quarterback. He's done some remarkable things with offensive players in his coaching career.
You know, as you look at the 2 years at Tulane and then the 7 years at Clemson, he has had the same record through 105 games as his father, Bobby Bowden, did in his first 105 games. Yet it seems like Tommy's always under a lot more pressure than Bobby is. Here's Whitehurst being chased, and he stepped out of bounds before he threw the football. He stepped out and lost 5 yards at the 37. True freshman Dakota Walker was chasing Whitehurst.
One of the things about Tommy Bowden that has given him such longevity is his willingness to adapt at Tulane. With quarterbacks such as Sean King, he had the shotgun offense, 1 back, but defenses have started to catch up with that by having faster linebackers and better defensive ends. And so that's why he brought in Rob Spence to alter their offense and give it a little bit more versatility, get more formations and more personnel groups involved.
5 bowls in 6 years as the head coach at Clemson, and the only reason he didn't go to one last year is because they forfeited that invitation after that melee against the Gamecocks down at Clemson. We've had a couple of potential flare-ups today, but no harm done. Whitehurst finds Baham stuck at the 45, 7 yards on the play. Fred Bennett, who had a first quarter interception, made the tackle. 3rd and 7 coming up.
3rd and 7. This is when South Carolina likes to come after the quarterback. You can typically expect some sort of a blitz pressure up the middle, primarily because they figure Whitehurst is not that mobile.
Well, Trevor mentioned the fact that they had 31 sacks entering this game, and that was with 17 different players getting in on the edge. Whitehurst throws into traffic, and it's caught. Aaron Kelly with the grab of the 45 and a Clemson first down.
Now, Rod, you said that this is the time when pressure comes. And so there were 9 players at the line of scrimmage, and all of them backed out. We're looking at all these guys. 9 guys. Oh, there's my little circles again. 9 guys up at the line. And watch, everybody but 3 will back out. So it was a blitz look. But there turned out to be 8 pass defenders, and Whitehurst completed it anyway.
Yeah, that never should have happened. They forced Mike West, the linebacker, to go wider than he should have on that play.
On the stretch play, Davis is bumped out of play at the 42-yard line. You'll see Davis a lot of times carrying the ball in his right arm, even when he's running left, simply because of that left wrist, which you see is taped up because of that injury suffered against NC State. Got that cast on that left wrist.
Well, he's a good example of some of the things that Bowden has been doing good. Davis is probably the most highly rated recruit at running back that he's gotten in his tenure at Clemson. And the last 2 recruiting classes have been very, very solid. So the next several years bode very well for Clemson.
Yeah, there were 7 SEC schools that recruited Davis, but he chose Clemson. Here's Davis off the right side to the 38-yard line for about 4. It'll bring up a 3rd down and 3.
And one of the reasons that he chose Clemson was that he knew that Rob Spence, as new offensive coordinator, was going to commit to running the ball. And he knew that he could play early here. He didn't want to sit on the bench at some other schools and wait his turn.
And Davis was trying to signal to get out of the game because he was hobbling. And now Clemson has 12 players on the field, and Davis has to head for the hills. Plenty of time on the play clock, so he's out of there. Now Clemson has the normal 11 players out there. Whitehurst. And nice grab for the first down in traffic by Bayham. This has been a long Clemson drive, almost 5 minutes off the clock as they continue to move the chains.
Tyrone Nix again has everybody up at the line. They're going to back out all but 4, but Whitehurst has found the answer. This confounded him in the first half, but in the second half now, he's been able to find open receivers against those confusing looks.
Tyrone Nix calling plays the last 3 games. John Thompson was calling most of the plays earlier in the year. Play action, and Whitehurst throw with a terrific play there, getting the ball to Bayham. Excellent throw by Whitehurst, and Jonathan Joseph on the play as Whitehurst is starting to look a lot more like the quarterback we saw earlier in the year.
Well, he certainly bounced back from the 2 interceptions in the first half. A nice route against man coverage by Bayham. He gets wide open there against Joseph, and you know, Bayham's a guy who's certainly concerned about folks back home in New Orleans where he grew up. Hurricane Katrina.
Davis breaks a tackle and gets to the 12-yard line. Got about 7 there. Nice sustained drive by Clemson. They've had 3 third down conversions on this drive. Tackle by Lance Laurie for South Carolina. We have not had a ton of big plays in this game. We had the pass play to Sidney Rice for South Carolina that led to a field goal. This is the 14th play on this drive for Clemson. Davis dragged down at the 6-yard line. Tackle by Terrell Davis, 6 yards downfield. And with more on James Davis, let's bring in Duke.
You know, James Davis, only a freshman, but got some experience because here's a guy that works out with Jamal Lewis and, of course, Amon Green. All 3 guys went to the same high school, so those guys lent some tips to Davis, and Davis, pretty experienced freshman here.
He's carried the ball 8 times on this drive, Duke, 33 yards rushing. Here he is again, and Davis is in. Touchdown, Clemson. There is a penalty flag down to the 2-yard line. That's the 9th carry on this drive for Davis, if it stands. But it's coming back.
Yeah. Big hold out there on the edge on that zone stretch play where they just let the offensive line fire out, kind of go to the left, and Davis picks his spot, but on the edge there was a hold. You see Tommy Bowden telling this guy to keep his hands in.
Holding offense, number 72. That's a 10-yard penalty from the spot. We'll replay first down.
That's Roman Fry, the left guard. Clemson does not have a senior that starts on that offensive line with the exception of Chip Myrick, and he's been off and on as a starter this year at right guard.
Well, Roman Fry, an interesting story. Pee-wee football coaches, when he was a kid, wanted him to play age groups higher than his own age because he was so big. His father didn't want him to do that. So he got him in karate, in soccer, in sports that taught him skills that he would need as a football player. And when he started to play finally, he was ready.
First and goal at the 13. Whitehurst, after a couple of fakes, tries to complete it, and Co Simpson comes up with a play on Cliff Harrell, the intended receiver. Co Simpson's name has not been mentioned a whole lot tonight in this game. He's been in on a couple of plays, but the only preseason All-SEC selection for the Gamecocks heading into the year has been quiet for the most part.
Well, he got such a break on this ball. I thought maybe he was going to pick it off. Number 10, the middle of your screen. Look where he is on that play. He's in great position. He jumped on that in a hurry. You see the anticipation he has, which makes NFL scouts really intrigued with him. And the rumor is he very well could be coming out after this season.
Whitehurst to pass on second down, going to the flat, and Davis cuts it back. And Davis is brought down to the 6-yard line by Ricardo Hurley and Brandon Isaac. So a third down and goal coming up from the 6-yard line. Well, if you're Rob Spence, you've had a lot of success running the ball in this drive. Do you keep it on the ground here with a third down and goal at the 6? Or is this a definite pass play here, guys?
I think it's definite pass play, and I think he's definitely going to look to his slot receiver. He's going to assume that there will be zone coverage down here.
18th play of the drive coming up from the 6. Whitehurst rolling out, and he had a man, but he couldn't hit Thomas Hunter, the tight end. Incomplete. Terrell Davis put pressure on Whitehurst that time, firing into the backfield.
And Trevor, the surprising thing, South Carolina played man coverage, and that's a problem down there because you can get bumped off your route by other receivers. It's like running a pick in basketball.
The defensive coordinator Tyrone Nix expected this. Terrell Davis comes right straight up the field to keep Whitehurst from breaking the pocket on the rollout, and that pressure kept the routes from having time to develop.
23-yard try for Dean, who made a 49-yard field goal in the first half. It's a game of field goals. 2 for South Carolina, 2 for Clemson. We're tied at 6 midway through the third in Columbia. And welcome back to Columbia, where the score is South Carolina 6 and Clemson 6 midway through the third. Monday Night Countdown, 7:30 Eastern, delivered by UPS on ESPN and ESPN HD. Stuart Scott and the gang getting you ready for Monday Night Football. It's the Vikings and the Packers from Lambeau Field. But a tough year for both teams in the NFC North, but that division still up for grabs despite the great play of the Bears so far this year. Lovie Smith, a candidate for Coach of the Year in the NFL. Here's Jonathan Joseph, and again South Carolina fails to hit the 20-yard line on the kick return. Tremaine Billy with a special teams tackle, and once again South Carolina will start inside its 20. Clemson with a 19-play drive that resulted in a field goal as South Carolina did a good job with its red zone defense on the Tigers.
That's what happens when you force them into a long drive. There's time for a penalty or a turnover. In this case, it was a holding penalty that kept them from scoring a touchdown.
And that, Trevor, was their first penalty of the game, and it negated a touchdown. Running play to Davis, who was injured early in the first half, came back late in the half and gets to about the 22. Trey Tate on the tackle. Mitchell is back at quarterback after tweaking his ankle at the end of the first half.
I tell you, on that play, Goddard and Levy of the offensive line did a tremendous job. You got 2 big guys leading up through the hole there, walling off some Clemson guys for a good 6-yard gain.
Back to Davis. Trying to get the corner. But again, Tremaine Billy, who made that big play on special teams, comes up with a stop on defense.
You know, Vic Koenig has to be happy with the Clemson defense. You know, their defensive coordinator has to like this. You push it outside and watch the speed and flow of the defense. He gets a lot of guys over there. 2 make the tackle and a couple of more in the area to help out. Tremaine Billy with the big tackle there.
Yeah, they had a great game defensively against Florida State last week. Held the Seminoles to 226 yards, had 6 sacks, 2 interceptions, and held Florida State without an offensive touchdown. Doing the same to the Gamecocks here tonight as Davis sprints into the secondary, breaks a tackle, and gets to the 40-yard line. About 17 there before Jamal Fudge makes the tackle.
Well, that's something we didn't see in the first half. A little bit of the old read option that Urban Meyer made famous at Utah.
Carolina, first down.
Although not much of a read involved, it was just give it to him. And Davis finds a hole to the right side.
That hole was there. They had 2 deep in coverage. 3rd and a long 3 is normally a passing down for Steve Spurrier. So he went against for him again.
Well, South Carolina is about 50 yards over its average for rushing yards in a game, but no touchdowns to show for it. Play fake for Mitchell. And Mitchell's pass is perfect to Rice. What a throw. And Rice has the first down to the 45-yard line of Clemson.
You know what impresses me here, Rod, is how Rice came back for the ball. He didn't stop and let the ball come to him. Now he's the outside receiver. He'll sprint up and then stop. Now watch him come back. There are 2 guys underneath. And by continuing to come back, he was able to make that catch.
Don't sleep on the quarterback, though. That was a pretty good throw by Mitchell. Sidney Rice with 6 catches, over 100 yards today. Davis, great vision, picking a hole. Finds the 38-yard line. Dwayne Coleman on the tackle, but that's a gain of 7 yards. South Carolina's moving the ball every time it gets it. The problem is the Gamecocks continue to start at either their 10 or their 15-yard line.
Yeah, that offensive line's been doing a great job up front. Watch how Corey Grover, number 7, gets manhandled inside. A double team almost pushes him out of the way. And when you can move the nose guard out of there like that, you're going to have room to run the football.
South Carolina, after the blitz that was picked up, it's Rice making a man miss to the 25-yard line. 13 yards for Sidney Rice, his 7th catch of the night.
Well, what a future this guy has. You talk about recruiting. Rivals.com had him ranked as the 55th best receiving prospect in the country coming out of high school. And that's very low considering the production that he's having this year as a redshirt freshman.
How about the block he got from his fellow freshman, Kenny McKinley, number 11 in there, sprung him to the outside.
Had a streak of 8 straight games with a touchdown catch. Ended last week as he got taken down to the 1-yard line on a long pass play against the Gators. Finished with over 100 yards in that game, has over 100 tonight, but it's a tie game at 6.
ESPN2's College Football Primetime. Brought to you by Mr. Goodwrench, found at GM dealerships nationwide. And PlayStation 2. Live in your world. Play in ours.
South Carolina with its 4th drive of more than 50 yards, but only 2 field goals to show for it so far. This drive started at their 15. They're at the Clemson 25 with a fresh set of downs. Mitchell to Rice inside the 5-yard line. And he could not come up with it. It's incomplete. C.J. Gaddis and Ty Hill were down there. It looked like Rice had it, but it's incomplete.
Well, Vic Koenig has got to be wondering just how in the world the most dangerous receiver for South Carolina can be left alone. They double him there, and he gets beyond the first level, and then the second level doesn't get there in time. Hey, he's the most dangerous receiver. You have to pay attention to him. He didn't come up with that ball. That's unusual for him to drop it.
Now would have put South Carolina inside the 5.
Have you ever heard 80,000 fans so quiet?
There's so much hype surrounding this game, obviously, especially on the heels of what happened last year. But it's been a quiet 80,000. Mitchell being chased, and he lost the ball, but he fumbled it out of bounds, so South Carolina will maintain possession. Charles Bennett forced the fumble on the quarterback as Mitchell hobbles back to the huddle. Groover was the man that initially, Jackson was the man that initially pushed Mitchell out of the pocket, and then Bennett chased him down.
Well, you see Mitchell, who is not the swiftest quarterback, gets run down there by Bennett. You know, getting back to this crowd. And the official talking, getting back to this crowd. The crowd was very loud before the ball game and as the game started. Since then, it's become quite quiet. And there are a lot of recruits here to watch South Carolina and Clemson. They're recruiting both these schools. They're looking at both of them.
3rd down and 9. 4-man rush for Clemson. Mitchell throwing off his back foot, and it is intercepted by Fudge inside the 10.
Hey, did you see where he was trying to go with that? Back to number 4.
Fudge may have hurt himself on the play. So Rice unable to come with a catch inside the 5. They go to him again, and the pass is underthrown. It's picked off by Jamal Fudge, his 3rd interception of the year, and Clemson takes over. We have ACC officials tonight, SEC technical advisor, SEC replay officials, and they've reviewed this play.
The review on the field was whether the pass was caught and maintained before the player went to the ground. Replay supports that the play was completed and the play as ruled on the field will stand. 1st down, Clemson.
Well, I completely disagree with that.
Has to be conclusive. It looked like it was conclusive that he didn't catch it. I mean, you got to have possession, control of the ball. Does he have control of the ball before he makes?
No, you've got to make a football move after you have control of the ball. If you hit the ground before you make a football move, then you have to maintain possession.
He doesn't have to make a football move. He just has to come back with the ball on the ground, and he didn't come back with the ball.
The ground can't cause a fumble, but it can cause an incompletion.
Right.
And that time it did.
He doesn't have to make a football move, though. He just didn't have it.
That's the point.
So Davis squirts through a hole out to the 11-yard line for about 4 yards. Well, the officials feel that he did, that he had control of it, and then he made a move, and then he lost the ball. That's obviously what they ruled because they felt that the play should be upheld. The ruling on the field should be upheld.
Since you're a big replay guy, you've been telling me all year the reason for replay is to get it right. Did you get it right there?
They feel they did. Based on what the rule says. I didn't think so. But
okay.
They feel it did, and they do this for a living.
So replay's not perfect.
It's on 2nd and 5. Whitehurst going deep, and good job by Stuckey to break up the pass. It was intended for Stuckey, and Jonathan Joseph had better position than he did, and Stuckey saved Whitehurst from getting his 3rd pick of the night.
Now, if that had been reversed, pass interference would have been called. That receiver went over and got his hands on the ball. And typically, if a defensive player does that, look at this contact here. He grabs him, and there's no call. If that had been a wide receiver trying to catch it in a defensive back, that would have been called pass interference, and that's what's unfair about the enforcement of pass interference.
Looked like he was going for the ball. Here's 3rd and 5, and it's caught out to the 25-yard line. Aaron Kelly on the slant as they convert a 3rd down and 5.
Yeah, he went for the ball, and he had one hand wrapped around his head.
Looked to me like the same thing we saw earlier with the Clemson player that broke up a pass that was not called interference. There's Kelly taking it out to the 27-yard line for a 1st down.
Okay, I'll let you have the last word. You've got the mic.
First down to the 27. We've seen a lot of Davis tonight, not a lot of Reggie Merriweather. It's the true freshman Davis again. To about the 33 for 6 yards.
And where's Chancey Stuckey? Chancey Stuckey has not been a factor in this game, even though he's the most explosive receiver for Clemson.
Well, one thing we've kind of overlooked is the play of the corners for South Carolina. I mean, Joseph and Bennett have been outstanding. And not just knocking balls down, but in being in tight coverage play after play.
Each has an interception in this game. Davis on 2nd and 4 straight ahead. Davis to the 45, 12 yards on the rush. There is a pocket of Clemson fans here in Columbia as they cheer on James Davis.
Well, we just saw Chancey Stuckey on the sideline. That's because there are 3 tight ends in here. Everybody's packed into the middle, but because there are so many extra blockers, they're able to execute the running game. This is something Bobby Bowden wanted to upgrade his offense, but it leaves Stuckey watching.
From the 45, Davis getting a workout here in the second half. And another 12-yard run for Davis to the 43-yard line. South Carolina has dominated big plays. We talked to Rob Spence, the offensive coordinator for Clemson, says 16+ yards on a passing play is considered a big play. And Spence says that 12 yards or more on a running play is a big play. It's 9-1 in favor of South Carolina in the big plays department, but the game is tied.
Well, so if you're a Clemson fan, you look at it and you go, we're tied, and we haven't gotten our offense going yet.
And Charlie Whitehurst is certainly capable of the big play. Davis looking for a hole. Cut it back to about the 40 for 3. Coe Simpson with a tackle.
Well, offensive coordinator Rob Spence has spent a lot of time studying the NFL to figure out exactly what it is that makes a team win, and big plays was the single biggest factor. He said that if you get two more of those big plays than your opponent, you'll win 88% of the time. And if you add that to winning the turnover battle, you'll almost never lose. But those big plays are a huge part of it.
Another fast-moving quarter, under 30 seconds to go in the third. Davis with a ton of running room to the 31 for a first down. Chris Hampton tripped up Davis on the play.
They're getting a lot of good work up front by Fry and Fry. Watch the interior part of the line. Little power action. You got the left guard moving to the right with a good block. And then the extra tight ends that Trevor mentioned, Cole Downer, number 90, with a nice block.
This Clemson drive started at the 6-yard line. Final play of the quarter from the 31, Merriweather. Spilled at the 27. Got 4 on the play. We are tied at 6 as we go to the 4th quarter. South Carolina and Clemson. To the 4th quarter we go in Columbia. Clemson ran 28 plays in that 3rd quarter. Came up with 3 points. This drive started at the 6. They're now at the South Carolina 27 with a 2nd down and 6. Merriweather looking for room. Thrown forward to the 25, about 2 yards on that pickup.
Those 28 plays in the 3rd quarter, 11 minutes of possession for Clemson. You look at what's happened quarter by quarter. You see that 3rd quarter, 150 yards for Clemson, only 60 for South Carolina because they weren't on the field. That's got to irritate Spurrier.
The other thing that irritates him is that his team has failed in the red zone twice to get touchdowns. Coming into this game, number 1 in the SEC, and red zone opportunities converted for touchdowns. Whitehurst has thrown 2 interceptions and has thrown for less than 100 yards in this game. And this one is nearly picked off. Mike West broke it up. Thomas Hunter was the intended receiver. And it's 4th down and 4. And Clemson's going to try to take the lead with a field goal.
Oh, he was right there. Wake up, Mr. West. He had a shot at it. To the right of your screen. 44. Jumps in there. Had plenty of time. He could have just jumped in there and took it. Tried to knock it down with the left hand.
42-yard attempt for Jad Dean. 2 for 2 tonight, including a 49-yard field goal in the first half. This to give Clemson its first lead of the night. And it's blocked. Oris Lambert blocks it for South Carolina, and the Gamecocks take over.
Right in the middle of the screen.
So a 12-play drive that doesn't do anything. And Steve Spurrier's offense with an opportunity and one of its best starting field positions at the 25.
Now there's not a lot of penetration. This ball just comes out low. And take a look now to the right of your screen. Take a look at that. Is just a tremendous leap.
And
it looked like Lance Lauren.
A ton of running room for Wallace to the 40-yard line, 15 yards on that pickup. I make that Davis on the carry. Mike Davis with 15 yards there. And we've got an injured South Carolina player in McKinley who needs to be helped off the field. There's Lambert who blocked the kick.
You know, that kind of play, that blocked field goal, is why South Carolina has won 5 consecutive SEC games. It's not that they've been overpowering people, they haven't. But players have risen up to make big plays in key situations to either score points or to keep the other team off the board. And it's happened over and over.
A few weeks ago, they won in Knoxville for the first time. Last week, they beat Florida for the first time since 1939. Here, they're trying to beat Clemson for only the second time in the last 9 meetings. Davis to the outside, gets to the 42. Dwayne Coleman made the stop there.
Dave, you talk about those 2 wins over Tennessee and Florida. You know that neither LSU nor Georgia was able to sweep those 2 games this year. South Carolina was.
But you look at the South Carolina offense and you can see what they're missing. They're missing that difference maker, that guy who can shake and make big plays for you. They had that in Savell Newton, but he's been out most of the year.
And Sidney Rice right there had an opportunity to make a big play the last time South Carolina had the ball, but he dropped it inside the 5. Chris Clark on the screen out to about the 47-yard line. Now, it was announced this week that South Carolina has been placed on 3 years probation. The school recommended sanctions, and the NCAA confirmed most of those sanctions with the exception of adding a 3rd year to the probation. They'll lose 2 scholarships each of the next 2 years and 6 recruiting visits each of the next 2 years.
And all those things came out of activity when Lou Holtz was the coach. Nothing to do with Steve Spurrier and his current staff.
Holtz currently an analyst with ESPN, and he resigned a few days before the game with Clemson last year. Spurrier was named head coach just a few days after that final game, when it was announced that South Carolina and Clemson both would forfeit their bowl invitations. And that pass way off target by Blake Mitchell. So it's 4th down and 3. It's the battle for bragging rights in the state of South Carolina. We thought we might have a low-scoring affair, and we do. 6-6 the score in the 103rd meeting. Clemson's won 3 in a row, 7 of 8, and 7 of the last 8 here. The last time they were here, they put up 63 points. Tonight only 6, but the game is tied early in the 4th. As Josh Brown will punt it away. And Stuckey back at his 10 to receive. And this rugby-style punt has worked twice, and it works again. The muff by Stuckey. And South Carolina appears to have recovered at the 10-yard line. It's Gamecock football. Tremaine Tyler recovers it after the muff by Stuckey at the 10-yard line.
The reason for the rugby-style kick is because the punter holds on to the ball for a few steps before he kicks it. That allows the defenders to get down the field and on the returner. So if you try to muff the ball that hits the ground and rolls, then there are defenders right there to take advantage.
A huge turnover here in the 4th quarter. 1st down and goal at the 10. Davis is planted by Nick Watkins at the line of scrimmage. It'll be 2nd and goal.
I think that Steve Spurrier ran that play to set up something for Sidney Rice. You put the ball over on the hash mark. That gives you more room to the wide side of the field. If you want to run a fade route, that gives you room for Rice. He's 6'4". Now he's got a lot of room to work out to the right side if you put him out there.
Well, actually, they still have the first down sticks out there. So even though the ball is just outside the 10, they still can get a first down. So it's not 2nd and goal. It's 2nd and 10. Mitchell's pass deflected at the line of scrimmage and incomplete. There is a penalty flag down, but when there's a batted ball, you cannot have pass interference on the defense. So they'll likely pick this flag up if that indeed is the call. And that is the call.
There's no foul on the play. The ball was tipped at the line of scrimmage. The ball was tipped at the line of scrimmage. There's no foul on the play.
And actually, Mitchell was lucky that ball was tipped because it would have been picked off had it not been tipped. I mean, just watch the coverage down here. Look at all the white shirts around McKinley. That ball never would have gotten in there had it not been tipped. Look at that at this angle. Look at 1, 2, 3 guys.
3rd down and 10. Corey Groover was the man that deflected the pass. Mitchell pumps once, then dumps it off. Nothing doing. Gaines Adams was all over Mike Davis. They actually lost yardage on the play. And South Carolina fails to get positive yardage after the muff punt. Will have to settle for a field goal attempt.
Well, give a lot of credit to that Clemson defense. That was a sudden change situation. You run on the field. You have to defend your end zone. Can't give up anything. They got it done.
Every game takes on a personality where it's won and lost, and this game is being won and lost right now down in the red zone. Neither offense able to punch it in, and it's going to be red zone offense and defense, I think, that'll end up deciding this game.
A 29-yard attempt, and South Carolina retakes the lead. So a blocked field goal attempt by South Carolina on one end and a made field goal on the other, and the Gamecocks lead by 3. Well, there's your turnover story for South Carolina. Whitehurst with 2 and Stuckey with 1 on the muff punt. South Carolina leads by 3 early in the 4th quarter. The ESPN College Football Encyclopedia is the biggest, richest reference guide ever published in the history of college football. It's available now wherever books are sold. You can look back on some of the great games in this rivalry between Clemson and South Carolina. Back the last game in this series without a touchdown was back in 1945, a scoreless tie. Aaron Kelly had trouble with it, and he will take a knee, and Clemson will start at the 20. Well, South Carolina has not been able to come up with touchdowns in the red zone, but done a pretty good job with red zone defense, 1 for 1 against Clemson.
And Clemson the exact same way. 3 possessions for South Carolina, who coming into this game had 22 touchdowns and only 6 field goal attempts in the red zone, and Clemson has kept them out of the end zone in all 3 of their tries.
Well, if you're Tommy Bowden, this is the time where you love having a senior quarterback in Charlie Whitehurst, trying to become the first ever Clemson starting quarterback to go 4-0 against South Carolina. They're down 3 as they start from the 20. And Davis loses yardage on the play. There were about 5 Gamecocks in on that play. Chris Tucker leading the way.
Well, you can commit 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 guys to stop the run when your corners play as well as South Carolina's have tonight. I mean, Bennett and Joseph have been doing such a great job. It frees up the other 9 guys to simply go after the run game.
Don't forget about Co Simpson in the secondary as well, their best player on defense. Whitehurst out of the gun. As time, trying for Kelly. What a throw by Whitehurst to Kelly. First down at the 47-yard line. Great touch on that pass by Charlie Whitehurst.
Yeah, and that was all Whitehurst. Because Joseph was not in bad shape. He had locked-on press coverage. You'll see him at the bottom of the screen to the right. He's in pretty good shape, but this ball is thrown perfectly.
That's why many NFL scouts feel that Whitehurst is the 3rd best senior quarterback in terms of being an NFL prospect, behind Leinart at USC and Cutler at Vanderbilt. That was a 27-yard pickup from the 47. A screen to Kelly. A flag down. as Kelly goes down to the line of scrimmage. Again, a penalty marker down. This is often thrown when there's clipping or holding in that area after the screen. And it is a clip on Clemson.
Well, that's not uncommon to find in that screen game, that you can block downfield so long as the ball is thrown behind the line of scrimmage. Sometimes those guys get a little carried away and they try and hit whoever they can. They get them from behind.
Clipping, offense number 64, 15 yards. We'll replay the down.
That's Chip Myrick.
Tommy Bowden trying to go 6-1 against Carolina in his tenure here at Clemson.
Right there. See, it's not just a block from behind, but it's a block below the waist from behind.
They had a penalty earlier this half that took away a touchdown. Clemson would have the lead right now. They ended up settling for a field goal. 1st and 25. And Whitehurst. And it looked like Kelly may have mistimed the jump. There is a penalty flag down in the backfield. Looks like holding again on Clemson.
I tell you, Myrick's having a tough series here. He got the clip, and they got him with the hold this time.
Holding, offense number 64. That's a 10-yard penalty from the previous spot. We'll replay the down.
Let's go ahead and take a look at our KFC game track. James Davis having a good night for Clemson, even though they don't have any touchdowns.
Well, Davis, even with the healing broken wrist, carrying the ball well. Field goal attempt knocked down. Special teams miscues. Really a difference in that third quarter, beginning of the fourth quarter.
And then Brown 3 for 3 on field goals for South Carolina. And it's a 3-point game. 1st and 35 for Clemson. You see that yellow line, which signifies the first down. It's all the way at the 43-yard line of South Carolina. Little shovel pass. Davis with a blocker in front. Davis taken down at the 30 by Terrell Davis. That play got about 8 yards.
But that's a good call. Get some of those yards back. Slow down the pass rush a little bit. Allow the offensive line to get back into sync.
Pretty good job there, too, by Terrell Davis to force that play back inside and not let James Davis bounce to the outside. 117 yards for the true freshman. On a 2nd and 26 at the 30. Whitehurst has Stuckey, who's belted, but pulls it in at the 45. 15 yards on that play. So it'll bring up 3rd and a manageable 12 yards. Simpson and Tyler both hit Stuckey on that play.
Yeah, coverage a little bit too soft that time. They were playing for deep routes, but look inside. You have your linebackers who allow that to happen in front of them. They need to get a little bit deeper and force the ball to be thrown higher.
You know, the running game, though, has been working, and that's one of the reasons they stayed up close.
Yeah, but you don't worry about the running game on 2nd and 26. Yeah, that's just not thinking through the play. You got to drop off on that.
Clemson 7 out of 12 on 3rd down. Whitehurst with time. And the pass is caught by Bayham. 2 broken tackles on that play, and Bayham is inside the 30-yard line. How about that? A 1st down and 35, and Clemson in 3 plays converts.
And what a nice throw by Whitehurst. He throws all the way out to the sideline. This ball has to travel a long ways. Now to the right of your screen, there's number 18, Bayham. That ball's got to come in fast enough that Bennett can't jump in front, so he has to put zip on it in addition to the accuracy.
So big play by Bayham, who's been a big play guy this year. 4 touchdowns for Clemson on the year. And the Tigers with a 1st down from the 27. Davis, huge hole up the gut. Davis finally tackled by Simpson at the 4-yard line. 23-yard gain.
And I got to tell you, Dustin Fry, the center, had a tremendous block on that play. And he really set that up. Just keep your eye on him. Watch how he handles his man inside. Comes off, bam, right there. Opens up a huge hole. Gets a little help by Roman Fry to the left, but what a great job by the center.
Clemson again going with 3 tight ends. Davis straight ahead again, gets to about the 2.
And Rod, that's a great point. What made that a great block by both of those guys was that they got on their man and then stayed fitted up on him. In other words, they didn't hit him and then stop their feet. They stayed there and pushed so that the defender could not shed the block and make the tackle.
Five big plays in the second half for Clemson.
Davis trying to cut it back. And Davis is in. Touchdown, Clemson. Davis had one called back earlier. A missed tackle by Ricardo Hurley on the stretch play. And Davis cuts it back for Pater, his 8th rushing touchdown of the season. Dean's extra point is good. And South Carolina's 5-game winning streak is in jeopardy with Clemson now ahead by 4, its first lead of the night.
This is all about want to. He's going to break a couple of tackles. He should be stopped right there. He breaks one and then breaks 2 more.
ESPN2's College Football Primetime. Brought to you by the Acura MDX with electronic 4-wheel drive. And Dr. Pepper and your local Dr. Pepper bottler. Dr. Pepper, one taste and you get it.
That was an 8-play, 80-yard drive. But if you consider 25 yards worth of penalties for Clemson, Tigers actually got 105 yards on that drive.
Well, they had a 1st and 35. They overcame that.
Whitehurst had some pretty passes, going 4 out of 6 for 78 yards on that drive. Joseph and Whiteside back to return the kick. And this might be good for South Carolina. Every time they've tried to run it out, they've been stopped at the 15-yard line. This time they'll start at the 20. James Davis with a lone touchdown in the game for Clemson.
Well, you talked about Whitehurst coming live with great passing. Well, it helped this running by Davis. He was able to get in behind a good performance by the offensive line on that last drive, busting one inside the 5-yard line and then finishing it off.
And this kid is just a terrific story. Grew up in the mean streets of inner city Atlanta. When he was 12 years old, he saw a good friend gunned down in the street. And his goal is to make it, whether it's football or school, to help get his family out of that situation.
Well, he's only a true freshman. And a pretty darn good one. Mitchell flushed out of the pocket. And Mitchell almost sacked, got rid of it. Would have been an 8-yard loss as Gaines Adams was gaining on Mitchell, who again is hobbling. He tweaked his ankle late in the first half, but is going to stick this one out.
Now with about 6 minutes to go, this is where people will need to step up and make plays. Sidney Rice will get the attention of the defense. He can make plays even when that happens. But right now, Noah Whiteside, number 1, is the other wide receiver. Ooh, and he gets that sore leg landed on.
5 wide. And shotgun on 2nd and 10, and movement on the offensive line. Jamon Meredith or Jabari Levy.
False start, 77 offense. It's a 5-yard penalty.
Well, actually, it was both of them.
Yeah. And Meredith is the guilty man according to the referee. 3rd time he's been flagged today.
Yeah, but they both looked at the quarterback, Mitchell, like, well, wait a minute, that's on you, buddy. But they both moved in unison.
That's the first South Carolina penalty this half.
Well, they both have got pretty good defensive ends in Gaines Adams and Charles Bennett to have to block on a long situation here.
We have flip-flop in terms of total yardage. South Carolina dominating the first, Clemson in the second. As the arm of Mitchell may have been hit on that pass, and then it's intercepted, but then it's fumbled, and South Carolina recovers, and they actually are going to gain about 23 yards out of it. Travis Lee forced the fumble after Gaddis picked it off, and Rice was the man actually who forced the fumble, and then it was recovered by Chris Clark.
Yeah.
Steve Spurrier said after the Florida win that God was smiling on the Gamecocks, and he did on this play.
I think that the arm was hit of Mitchell. It was picked off by Gaddis, and then Rice just ripped it out of his hands, and Clark was right there to recover.
It's a hard way to get a first down.
Pretty good gain, 24 yards. That might be the biggest play of the night.
Spurrier will tell you that he drew it up that way.
More conventional running play. And Davis stretching forward to the 44, got about 5 on the play. Fudge made the tackle.
They've gotten a strong performance from Davis tonight, as they have the last few weeks. Ever since Steve Spurrier challenged him to pick it up, he's had more confidence. He's broken more tackles. He's been a more patient runner.
Yeah, the big difference is that in the first part of the season, he tended to fall backwards when tackled. In the second part, he's starting to learn how to fall forward, to drive through tacklers for the extra 2 yards.
He was the top running back prospect in South Carolina last year from Columbia High School here in Columbia. Second down and 5 of the 44. Davis again to the other side. Got the first down to midfield. Hamlin on the tackle. Waters was chasing, and Davis just outran him to the outside.
Young man was on the sidelines watching these games last year.
So first down, Clemson from midfield. Little toss to Davis. 3 straight successful runs by Davis. This one picks up 6 to the 44. As South Carolina is now inside Clemson territory. It's the 103rd meeting between these two schools. Clemson has won 3 straight, 7 of the last 8, and 7 of the last 8 here. And right now leads 13-9. South Carolina is in this position because of a 24-yard wild play. Pass was intercepted by C.J. Gaddis. Then Sidney Rice for the Gamecocks forced a fumble. It was recovered by Chris Clark, keeping the drive alive for South Carolina. Under 4 to play in the 4th. All field goals and 1 touchdown. The lone TD by James Davis of Clemson. And here's Dacus Turman taking this one to the 43 for about 2. It's going to bring up 3rd down.
Well, South Carolina has not had trouble moving the football tonight. They've just had trouble executing once they get inside the 20-yard line. And 3 field goals when they had opportunities to get touchdowns.
And coming into this game, 22 touchdowns and 31 red zone opportunities for South Carolina. That was number 1 in the SEC coming in.
Credit Clemson's defense. They clamped down there and didn't allow receivers to run those slants.
And a timeout called by Carolina. That'll leave them with 1 remaining. Are you in 4-down territory here if you're Steve Spurrier, guys?
I think so. I mean, considering the last couple of drives by Clemson, they had the ball for 11 minutes in the 3rd quarter and controlled it on that last drive they had the ball. So you have to assume, if you're Spurrier, that if you don't go on 4th down, you might not get the ball back.
So 1 timeout now remaining for South Carolina, and a 3rd down and 3 coming up at the 43-yard line of Clemson. The Tigers trying to make it 4 straight wins in this series. Tommy Bowden with a record of 5-1 against Clemson's arch rival South Carolina. Steve Spurrier's offense has been able to accumulate only 3 field goals, and Clemson leading for the first time on its last drive. A touchdown run by true freshman James Davis, who's rushed for 144 yards in this game.
Well, South Carolina has to be thinking 2 plays here to pick up a first down. If they don't pick it up on third, they have a backup play that they have to believe will pick up the first down for them.
South Carolina cannot go to the SEC championship game with Georgia's win over Kentucky, but still a major bowl in the future for the Gamecocks if they can win this game. On 3rd down and 3, they get stuffed and they lose about 3 yards as Anthony Waters came flying into the backfield along with Billy to stop Davis. So now it's 4th down and about 5.
Yeah, Spurrier called that run because he thought he could get a yard or 2 or the first down and get closer and then come back with a 4th down play. They tried to run a power and pull the guard. He never got there.
That's because of penetration by Gaines Adams. Now it's 4th down.
Yeah, it's 4th and 6, so they lose 3 yards, but they're going to go for it anyway. They spread them out with 5 wide receivers.
Rice in the slot at the top of the screen.
Mitchell, and the pass is intercepted. Charles Bennett on the redirection picked it off, and Clemson will take over at midfield. Had it been incomplete, Clemson would have taken over anyway. It was deflected by Rashad Jackson into the arms of Charles Bennett.
Well, he was trying to go to Rice. They had him inside and had him run a hook over the middle. He was the guy they were looking at all along. Best receiver on the team. He's right there, number 4. Trying to get to him. He's open, but the ball gets tipped.
And it's tipped by Rashad Jackson, number 91, who's 6'3". Now he's going to drop out. He's right here. He drops out in pass coverage. He's not supposed to be there. And Mitchell didn't read the zone pressure, and he was able to get that tip.
That's the 3rd interception this half for Mitchell. And we've got a whistle, and a timeout's going to be called by Clemson. South Carolina's had to call 2 timeouts already and only has 1 remaining. So if Clemson gets a first down, it might be hard for Steve Spurrier's team to get the football back. They trail by 4.
All right, let's get you updated once again on what's going on at Mississippi. LSU still leads it 23-0 inside the Ole Miss 35. We'll keep you updated as we go back to South Carolina.
All right, Matt, Charles Bennett with the interception gives Clemson the ball at midfield. As we look at the Dr. Pepper SEC East standings, Georgia clinching the East. South Carolina will finish second no matter what, as that running play goes to the 47-yard line by Davis. Oris Lambert on the tackle. South Carolina, by virtue of its win head-to-head with Florida, will finish second for the first time since 2000, and it happens in Steve Spurrier's first year here.
And take a look at Vanderbilt down there above Tennessee. Congratulations to Vandy on their win today. You take a look at the West. Auburn at 7-1 in the conference now.
What a great job by Tommy Tuberville, and you wonder now if Auburn is in the mix for an at-large berth if it doesn't win the SEC championship, but it'll be in the SEC title game. Taking on Georgia, Clemson by 4. A running play that loses yardage as Davis is taken down by Ricardo Hurley, so it'll bring up a 3rd down and long, and South Carolina's out of timeouts. Now, if you're Tommy Bowden, is this a no-brainer? You run the ball, or do you take a chance to try to pick up the first down by throwing it with your senior quarterback, Whitehurst?
No, I think you go for the first down on this one, because if you run the ball, you're probably no way going to get 10 yards in this situation. If you get the first down, you win the game.
I disagree. I think you keep running time off this clock, and then you put them way back in their own territory with no timeouts.
They're going to go empty backfield, and Whitehurst is going to take off quarterback draw. And Whitehurst gets the first down. The senior quarterback looking to become the first Clemson QB to go 4-0 against rival South Carolina. May have just won the game for Tommy Bowden.
And if that's the case, he won it by not being tripped up. Somebody got down to his ankle. He almost tripped, but he kept his balance, and that's what allowed him to get this first down.
Oh, let's take a look and see. There's Simpson coming through clean, but can't get over to get Whitehurst.
And Clemson will take a couple of knees and win the game in Columbia for the 8th time in 9 tries. and 4 straight overall. It would have been tough for South Carolina even if it stopped. Whitehurst on that play would not have had a lot of time left, and 0 timeouts.
Well, you look at the score, 4-point difference. South Carolina had the ball in the red zone 3 times. If even on one of those they could have gotten a touchdown instead of a field goal, this game goes to overtime. So credit Carolina or Clemson's defense.
How about Whitehurst? He'll go 4-0 as a quarterback. That's better than Steve Fuller did, better than Homer Jordan did as quarterbacks at Clemson.
Homer Jordan, the national championship winner in 1981.
And not even a hint of any kind of extracurricular activity in terms of pushing and shoving. You remember the brawl last year in this game, and they had a pregame handshake to try to diffuse any attempts to have some bad blood hold over.